season. They suddenly make sense. And so I watched it, and then suddenly I'm just binging all the way from season 1 all the way to the end of season 2. And then picked up the podcast, and I've been listening ever since, and writing letters, arguing on the Facebook page, calling in, and just been. The podcast has been a constant friend for many years now.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm glad you found it. Yeah, you've been a supporter going way back. I remember you writing in early on. You picked this episode to come and guest with us on. I said, would you like to come on? And you picked this one. Why did you? I mean, I know we're going to talk a lot about it, so I'll find out what you think about it. But just, did this come up right away in your mind when you're like, which one would I want to be on? Was it clear?
Oh yeah, 100%. This is one of those seminal episodes. These are the ones that expand the whole lore and really brought me into the series, and this is what showed what The Walking Dead could be. You know, the series was going along. This happened, then this happened, then this happened, and as you were saying in an earlier podcast, Jason, it was that things happened so they could have a story, and they didn't necessarily connect. You know, but then this one was so it was planted so early, and was just in the background of this whole season, and it kind of ebbed and flowed, whether you were thinking about Sophia, and then that moment when she comes out of the barn, spoilers, was just such a gut punch and a shock, and just such an amazing moment that you just couldn't wait to watch the next episode, because suddenly it became more than just a horror thing. It was such a made you think so hard when that happened.
It's interesting because there's so many people I've heard this is the episode that pulled them in, and we'll talk about. That's actually one of my points about why that is. But on first glance, it's kind of funny. It's almost like, yeah, this girl that everyone was hoping would be saved was a zombie. It's like, we love this show because we're masochists. That's why. That's what it seems like. There's a lot more to it than that, but it's really interesting that this is the one, and I can see why. I mean, it really, but I don't want to get unpack that right now because we need to get into it. But
exactly,
let's just talk about first, Lucy. What about you in general? How was it to revisit this one?
Oh, like putting on an old horrible sweatshirt. Comforting and yet horrifying. Yeah, there's just a lot in this episode, a lot to kind of unpack and go through, and I really enjoyed revisiting it.
Me too. I had forgotten how much of a build of tension this was, all because of Shane. You know, he's just, I think as soon as he finds out Lori's pregnant, he's like, I'm gonna kill all those zombies, where's the guns? And so just that progression of him with Dale and then up to the end was so tense. I think that's another reason why this episode stood out to people.
Even without Sophia coming out of the barn, what Shane does is pretty horrific. Like it's there's a lot.
It was, I mean, that's what I mean. Like the Dale and Shane scene was really tense, and then and all the stuff in between too. But then when they're shooting the zombies, that is insanely tense because of what they're doing and Herschel's reaction to it. And then you think that's like enough, right? That's a tense fucking show. And then when Sophia comes out, it just raises up an even another level. Oh shit.
Yeah.
So
look, and well, that level of tension, because I binge this one. Life gets in the way, and so just so leading up to this podcast, over the last kind of 10 days, I've watched the season 2, and that underlying feeling of impending doom is throughout season 2. That something's coming, and what I loved is how it lulls you into this feeling of, oh, we're just going to forget about Sophia. Where Carol and Daryl are talking, she's like, you've tried so hard, I'm almost ready to let her go, and everyone's all, there's all this thought of moving on, and then then that moment when she walks out of the barn, it was just so horrifying, and so it just hits so hard. But I've loved watching this, the rewatch. It's been way better than I expected. I've enjoyed it way more than I thought, and at the end of each episode, I'm like, that was great. It wasn't like, okay, let's get through the next one. It wasn't like, a thing that you do trying to just do it. It's not like a marathon.
You're pulled along,
it's like
right?
A walk along the beach. I've really been enjoying it.
I mean, I would argue, I have too, but in large part, that's because, as I've been saying, that I really have come to care about the characters, and it's really fun to go back and see their early selves. But I also, I remember what it felt like to watch this the first time. I actually liked it pretty well my first watch through, but then when I went back to watch it again soon after for rewatches, I was like, man, this is slow, and where's the zombies? And even when I first watched it, I had some of those criticisms. And so it's a mixed bag for me, but I would argue that another part of the reason why this episode hit so hard is because it was such a slow build, and maybe some would say too slow. That it got us like jonesing for something, come on, it's like enough foreplay, give me the climax. So then when it finally came, it was like, if you know what I mean.
Jason is a demanding lover.
I mean, all said and done, it was probably for the best.
Smoking a cigarette,
all right,
after she's come out of the barn. That was amazing.
Start with the podcast. All right. So that's what I always do after sex. I explicate the hell out of it. So let's go. What did you think, Jonathan? How about your first point?
Oh, all right. So I'd like. It's titled "Should I Stay or Should I Go?" I think the whole theme of this season has been of what they should do now. And should we stay at the farm? Should we go? Are we allowed to stay at the farm? Or are they going to throw us out? Is Herschel going to recognize his own humanity and responsibility and let them stay? But Rick's guilt is keeping him there. He blames himself for Sophia, but Shane wants to leave because he's feeling guilty over Otis and Shane wearing Otis's ill-fitting clothes at the funeral was one of the highlights. Just one-shouldered thing. But I just, is Herschel right or wrong? And that, I think, is one of the great things of The Walking Dead. It does present a moral dilemma. And there are two sides of it. It is important for, should he keep the group or should he stay small and look after his own? And that scene with Rick when he's begging Herschel, don't send us back out there. It's not whether you live or die, it's who you become. He's trying to say it's not whether we live or die when we go out. We will just turn into horrible people. And you as a good man, can you let that happen? And so I found that question throughout the series and this episode one of the great interesting themes, and I think there are two sides of it. Herschel's right to want them to go, Maggie's right for wanting them to stay, they're all of course right to want to stay as well. So I thought that tension throughout the series and this episode was really good.
Yeah. I mean, it gets you thinking about future events too, because Rick's talking about it turns you into a horrible person, like you said, and we see they do end up forced off the farm, and they do end up getting a lot darker. And also, he says, my wife's pregnant, if you send us out there, it's a death sentence. And that's exactly what it ended up being. Yeah, a lot of things came to fruition. That all these a lot of threads started here, and this is one of those open door or sliding door moments. What would have happened if they stayed at the farm? They all decided to stay. On a previous podcast, I was saying, I got so tired of the theme, how dark would you go to protect the people that you love in this world? But that theme wasn't even there in the first season very much. Maybe you could argue, but I'm like, oh wow, we haven't even got to that yet, and I got tired of it. And here is really where it starts to be introduced this season, because Shane is like the prototypical, he's the one who thinks you should go dark, and Rick is resisting it. So Rick isn't even going there yet, but he shoots Sophia here, so maybe that's like his first step down the road.
And the next episode, he kills 2 living men.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a very it is a watershed. Like
this is Darabont's final one as showrunner then.
Possibly.
Because I remember Glenn Mazzara, that was his first one, Nebraska.
Oh, the second half of season 2?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting.
He couldn't agree with AMC anymore. And okay, Lucy, what about you?
I feel like there's so much I haven't quite got my head around it yet, even though we've been preparing for this for days. I think I'd like to talk a little, because I think we're going to talk a lot about Sophia in this episode, but I want to talk a little about Daryl and Carol, particularly Carol, who I think you're right, Jonathan. You get a sense in this episode that Carol's almost come to a kind of peace with how things are. Like, she's recognizing that, efforts have been made and that the conversation might be moving on. What I found really interesting is how shitty Shane is to Daryl at the start of this episode. He just undermines him. He talks they come to blows because Daryl's like, we found her doll the other day, and Shane's like, oh, you found her doll? Like, he's really quite,
and he's being talking about his buck knife and just being a dick.
Absolute dickhead.
Shane would have come across guys like Daryl all the time as a policeman, the local troublemaker. And so I think that's kind of goes back. And of course, Daryl's opinion of the police would be kind of fixed. So there's all that background without them just being two strong guys going at it in the CA,
But it's like we're getting past where people because they're getting to know each other, and also societies and labels are kind of gone. And, as Rick said in season 1, there's no N-word anymore. And so now when Shane is just sort of triggered or whatever, he just falls back on all that. And he says, let me tell you something else, man. If she was alive out there and saw you coming all methed out with your buck knife and geek ears around your neck, she would run the other direction.
Awful.
So he just lets it all out.
And it absolutely triggers Daryl all to hell to start being an absolute dick, because he calls Carol a bitch, which I was not happy about. When they have their little set to in the stables. But fair play to Daryl, he does apologize for it later. The two of them kind of reconcile, and they're looking at some Cherokee roses. And he's the one who holds her back when Sophia's coming out of the barn. And obviously there's a very powerful mirror of that in season 9, end of season 10 with Henry and the Whisperers.
I can't remember what happens. Was Henry a zombie and Daryl? What happened?
No, when she sees the head,
she had his head cut off.
When she sees the heads on the pikes, Daryl is holding her back, saying, "Don't look."
That's right. That was a great moment.
Awful.
Walking Dead's great.
So good. And you see Daryl. It's funny. He is still a team player though. Like when Shane hands him a gun, he takes the gun and walks with him. But what's interesting is when Shane is going all out trying to shoot the Zeds coming out of the barn, initially Daryl is marking Rick and making sure that Rick doesn't, he's marking the Zed that Rick is carrying on the leash.
Right.
And I was like, that's really interesting. Daryl's actually looking out for the team here, looking out for Rick.
He's very protective.
Whereas Shane is more focused on this mission of like, I'm going to kill everyone in the barn.
He does kill the one next to Rick, though.
He does eventually. I had to go back and double check that. But that is such an interesting move, because it's like, come on, Rick, you have to get involved. Like, there's so much in that moment.
Then Rick gets involved.
And I just think Carol and Daryl in this episode are both really strong, and poor Carol. That bit at the end.
I had to rewind that moment and put the subtitles on. I'm like, did he just call her a stupid bitch?
Yeah, I know. I was like, sorry. What?
Yeah, he did. Whoa, Jesus.
I was like, what? Because she's saying, hey, maybe she's gone, and I don't want to lose you too. And he's like, you stupid bitch. And I'm like, whoa, what was that all about? And I think it could have been either that he was triggered or that he didn't want to give up hope and that he's mad that she did, or he just doesn't know what to do when someone expresses care and affection for him, or a combination of both.
Yeah,
Those
or
are the
all
two
of
things
the
I came
above.
up with. Yeah.
Yeah, all of the above.
I have another take, and it was because my next point is relationships,
Ooh.
and so one of them is the Daryl and Carol thing, and she turns to him at this moment, and she's like, "I don't want to lose you."
Yeah.
And she's looking at him with more than just friendly affection.
I think so.
And she's like, you can't lose you too. And that's when he looked at her and he's like, and he has that expression of what?
Yeah.
And he suddenly realizes, this is how I interpret it, realizes that she has romantic leanings towards him.
Oh.
And he's like, oh, leave me be, stupid bitch. I thought that was...
But I think that's kind of related to what I said about not knowing what to do when someone shows affection.
Yeah.
But I do think
100%.
early on in a relationship, a lot of times it's not clear to either party maybe what it could be or what it is, and I feel like that's kind of where they're at right now. And later on but even with Carol in the prison, she says to him, you want to fool around at one point, and she played it off like she was kidding, but I think if he would have said yes, she would have been okay. But then over time, like no, like now that would never happen.
No.
But yeah, I felt like that was there too.
Yeah. But I've had relationships like that with people where in the beginning, should we, shouldn't we? And then you become great friends, you know?
Or you go ahead and do
never
it.
see each other. Or do it. Yeah, that's there's that option
that's
as well.
The third choice, yeah. Speaking of Shane and Daryl, I love that. It made me wish that we could see more of Shane. I always wish that, as much as I thought it was a great ending for him. But what would Daryl and Shane's relationship have evolved into? Would they have just been even more and more pissed with each other over time, or would they have grown to respect each other? We'll never know.
I just don't think Daryl would be Daryl if Shane was still around. I think he wouldn't have had the chance to grow into that role. But I know what you mean, Jason. It would be really interesting to see.
Yeah. That's, I didn't think about that, but maybe that makes me sad to think about, actually.
Yes.
All right, my turn.
Yes.
Okay, my number one is called Built for This World, which they kind of focused in on that concept of what it means to be built for the zombie apocalypse, with Shane and Dale in particular, when that was such a tense scene and Shane's like, give me those guns, and Dale's about to shoot him but can't bring himself to, and says, what, this world was made for you, for people like you. And he told Andrea, you don't know him. And I think what he didn't say it to Andrea, maybe he should have, but he should have said, he had his gun trained on Rick for a while out in the woods. He's got that in his head, and he, even though he doesn't know, he really did figure out that Shane killed Otis, that he shot him. He knows. Yeah. So he knows that Shane is a cutthroat kind of a guy. So I guess that's what I mean. It's built for this world. Does that mean? It's interesting to think about that. What that means. Shane tells Lori, Rick ain't built for this world. And when Shane lets the zombies out of the barn, he says, enough risking our lives for a little girl who's gone. Enough living next to a barn full of things that are trying to kill us. Enough, Rick. It ain't like it was before. If you want to live, you want to survive, you got to fight for it. So what he's saying is, Rick, you're too soft. You're caring what other people think at the expense of our own safety. You need to step up and make the hard choices. And if anyone goes against you, you either force them to go along or kill them. I think that's what it means for Shane to be built for this world, and sort of for Dale too. I mean, it's the same thing, just kill or be killed, basically. And Shane blames Rick for having lost Jim and Amy. Didn't mention Ed. And so Rick, his circle of care is too big, because he was off trying to save Merle at that point, and he just cares about too many people. And Shane's like, you should pick the people that you care about, and everybody else you kill if they get in the way. Over time, Rick's circle of care shrinks, but then I think, and I want to explore this more as we go along, but I think it expands out again, maybe because of Negan, actually, in reaction to Negan, and thinking, I can't be like him, I got to be better. But anyway, before that, he gets really dark. So that'll be fun to track. When Rick tells Shane that Lori's pregnant, his first thought is, we need our guns. So I think he's like, oh, I have a baby. We need to kill those zombies. He knows right away what he's going to do. So his circle of care just expanded by one more person. Now it's Lori Carl and this new baby. And he's going to do it no matter what, even though it's not his land. The person whose land it is absolutely doesn't want him to do that. Fuck it. I don't care. So that's what built for this world means to him. Now, I was asking myself, is Shane right that Rick's not built for this world? In hindsight, I would say, no, he's wrong, but only because Rick is changing. And as he said, like you said earlier, Jonathan, to Herschel, he says, this world is much worse than what you saw on TV, and it changes you either into one of them or something a lot less than the person you were. Don't send us out there. So Rick doesn't know how true that is. Later in Alexandria, Carol's like, if we get comfortable here, we let our guard down, this place is going to make us weak. And Rick says, it's not going to happen. We won't get weak. That's not in us anymore. We'll make it work. And if they can't make it, then we'll just take this place. That's what Shane is saying right now.
Yeah.
He's turned into Shane in Alexandria,
really
pretty much.
Yeah.
He's not quite as bumbling about it. I mean, if you're talking about who's built for this world, who's alive and who's dead, Shane.
Yeah, that's right.
Shane is too, he's not crafty enough,
No,
he got himself killed because he was just trying to brute force it. You got to have
because it's the ZA is chess, it's not checkers. You have to think ahead, you have to plan,
right.
And maybe that's what Rick is always trying to do, is that he went after to Merle for the peace of the group, and it was the right thing to do, but also to maintain the harmony of the group. But I think it's also a question of, can people make the hard decisions? Like
yes.
The hard decision is to move on from, obviously Sophia's dead after 5 days.
And that's what changes with Rick over time. Yeah. He's able to more make those hard decisions. And we saw him do things like bite Joe the Claimer's throat out. He went too dark. He shot at random people that turned out to be from the kingdom. He told his people to go to the sanctuary outpost, kill everyone in their sleep without knowing if any of them were maybe being forced to work for Negan. It doesn't matter. Told him to go to the Grady Hospital where Beth was being held and just kill everyone there, even though Daryl, I think, talked him out of that. And there were good people there. So when Shane says to Lori, Rick isn't built for this world, Lori says, you're wrong. And I wonder, at least in hindsight, I'm retconning that to mean you don't know him like I do. You don't know what potential he's got in there for darkness, So let me see. I had a lot more notes on this, but I don't need to go through the whole thing. But I just love that contrast of, and how the characters, we know how they change over time and who makes it and who doesn't. And so thinking about that in terms of who's built for this world, what does that mean? What does it really take? And does it really take all that? Like, built for this world, I feel like it's not even that much about the zombies. It's about dealing with people like the governor, Negan, and even Shane in this instance. Like, dealing with people like you is, if you got to know how to deal with people like you, like Shane.
And are you capable of the violence that it requires to stay alive? And then is it worth protecting people that aren't? Eventually, the Walking Dead becomes survival of the fittest with each season. Those that aren't fit to survive don't. And even some that are don't, because it's such a dangerous place. You need to be prepared to be violent and accept violence, in order to survive. But then the continued struggle in The Walking Dead is holding on to your humanity.
When I just covered Squid Game, and I don't want to give too much of that away for people who haven't seen it, but there's a time in that series where you realize that anything goes, that in order to win the Squid Game, you can kill anyone, and they're all sleeping in the same place. So you're not safe at night anymore. And that got me thinking about how society developed, because I think that's how it was for people before we started organizing into societies. If you were out and you saw someone you didn't know, it was kill or be killed. And so that's why civilization developed, so we could have laws and rules and things to keep us feeling safe and people to enforce those laws, in order that we didn't have to worry about our survival in our lives all the time. And we could do other things like arts and, just the development of humanity. And so now all that is kind of taken away. But in order to bring it back, you need strong leaders who can inspire people to be organized. So you need people who do care about more people, but they have to be really skilled at getting everyone else invested in that, right? So so right now they're early on, and Rick is trying to be that person. But Ezekiel ends up being the one at the end in the Commonwealth.
Yeah,
I talked way too long. Sorry about that, guys.
No, so I'm sitting here listening.
That's my longest point.
I can actually talk back, listeners. This is what it's like.
It's good, isn't it?
Talk back to the host.
Well, talk back. It's your turn. What do you got next?
I disagree with everything, said John. Here is my list of grievances from the last 10 years. Number 1.
Yes. Let me take you back to what you said in episode 3. All right, so relationships. I'd like to give my impression on the status and motivations for various relationships as they appeared to me as I've watched the season over the last week or two. And of course, up for discussion, and I may have it completely wrong, and I'm kind of doing this all a bit of tongue-in-cheek as well. Let's start with Daryl and Carol. I thought it's a bit of... the beauty and the beast, because Daryl's the beast, and Carol can see the good in him. Will they? Won't they? And this ignited a fierce debate on the Facebook chat. I'd check in on the Facebook group. If you're not a member, we're closing in on 700, so come and join us. And this just thread after thread, people going back about their relationship with Daryl and Carol. So it was really good. And so, am I correct that Carol is around 40 in The Walking Dead?
I think
or
so.
Like late 30s?
I checked their ages. Yeah, I mean, Melissa McBride was, I think, 46 and Norman Reedus was 42. But as far as the characters, I don't know.
Yeah.
So she's a little older.
That she is older. And,
but not a whole lot, just a few years.
No, I kind of thought that they were playing Daryl like... younger, like like Beverly Hills 90210. They're all kind of 36, but they're playing teenagers.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah.
So I thought that he's kind of meant to be around 25 or something.
Yeah, I was thinking in the late 20s, early 30s.
Yes. So I think there's a good 10 years gap between them. But in the beginning, I've always found that them being shipped was kind of odd. But now that watching this again, I see that she does desire him as her protector, and there is a relationship there, and then the show actually has some awkward pauses where are they about to kiss? But I found it's a very one-way thing. But then there was that scene with the "Leave me be, stupid bitch," which I thought was like, that's really intense between these two. So I don't know how What are your guys' thoughts on? I know you've done it a million times.
I've always loved them as a platonic thing. But what I was thinking about when I was watching this episode is, at this point, we're still pretty in comic land for a lot of it, and Carol in the comics is very different when it comes to relationships. And at one point, I think at the prison, she wants to be a throuple with Rick and Lori. Like, she wants to be part of their marriage.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Go
Isn't it, Jason?
Carol.
I'm not making that up. Like, that does happen. And I think, is she with Tyrese for a bit in the comics as well?
I think
there's someone she's with who does not want to be with her, and this leads to her, spoiler alert, her end in the comics. I won't say too much about it. So I wonder sometimes if they were still toying with that in this, and that's why they have her be a bit more, because I think it doesn't seem to me that there was ever really any potential for a romantic relationship, and I don't know that that's what they were leaning towards. But for Carol's character at this point, if we were sticking closer to the comic book trajectory, it wouldn't be bananas. Like, it would make a little bit of sense with where she ends up in text. What do you think, Jason?
Go Carol.
Yeah. Very progressive.
I remember being kind of annoyed with Carol in this season, but I can't remember if that was a little bit later on or if I was feeling that way right now. I remember when she was mad at Carl in one of the episodes coming up, but I can only remember the bad lip reading where he says treat and she goes, he said treat.
Oh yeah, he said treat.
But I can't remember what actually happened in the episode. But anyway, so it's hard to recapture the feeling I had about Carol back then because now I know her character and where she goes, and at this point
what a character arc she's had.
Yeah, and I'm fully like not annoyed with her at all. Like when she was talking about maybe Sophia's actually gone, I was like, oh man, yeah, she's really just starting to grapple with that. And then she expressed like, I don't want to lose you too, and I was like, oh yeah, that's so nice and sweet. And then he called her that, the stupid bitch, and then I was like, what a fuck you, dude, shut up. So I'm fully on her side here. But as far as a relationship between Carol and Daryl, I love them as friends. I was never, I don't think like, oh God, if they got together, that would just be the worst thing ever. But I'd rather, I mean, it's like me and you, Lucy, or me and Karen, you know, it's nice to just be friends.
Men and women can be friends.
Yeah, men and women can be friends, and that's nice.
but I guess not on the internet, you know.
I had
and then go on.
I once had a massage. So this does have a point. I once went to see a masseuse, and she was like, I can tell a lot about a person from their energy. And I was like, all right, okay. And she's like, let me guess, all of your close friends are male. And I'm like, what? No. And then I was like, oh, actually, no. Yeah, a lot of my close friends are male. Well done. Because I don't know, when you're younger, you think that's impossible. And then you're like, oh no, like, yeah, that is true. Well done, masseuse lady. Thank you for verifying that fact. But yeah, it's interesting. I watched Apple TV, the series Platonic with Rose Byrne and Seth Rogen. Really good. Really good. Kind of explores this in a bit more detail.
Oh, it does. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Very cool. And Rose Byrne gets to use her Australian accent, which I love.
Oh, she does. Yeah. I photographed her years and years ago on a boat. And so she was a gorgeous, sweet girl. Yeah, absolutely. But a long time ago. All right. So then Dale and Andrea. This is an interesting one. And it really surprised me, Jason, when you said about their relationship in the comics. That kind of is very interesting.
What did I say?
It seems like that they actually have they get together.
Yeah. But it's much different because Andrea is way younger. Like she's 25 and he's 65 in the comics. Yeah. And that seems like, in today's day and age, that's problematic. It's wrong. In the comic, I thought it was beautiful. They were both just very respectful of each other. Andrea was a kick-ass character, not like she is in the show by a lot of accounts. And so it's just almost like two whole different characters, I thought.
Yeah.
And they never played it as creepy in the comics. They always played it as an actual relationship that they had, which I thought was quite cool. Yeah.
I mean, I would hope no one would ever play their relationship as creepy.
No, but I mean, the comic doesn't shy away from some very awful sexual things and like.
Oh yeah, I guess I see what you're saying,
but it always in the comics it was taken seriously as a relationship. It wasn't like, this is creepy or this is
because in this it seems because he seems like an old man hiding his desire for Andrea behind his care for her, where it seems he's like a, you know, he's in the friend zone, but one day she'll realize, you know, that I'm the one for her, and he's hanging around and you know, trying to manipulate her, trying to isolate her, you know, and the reaction that he had to when Shane and Andrea hooked up when they had danger sex in the car, and then he came back, and of course.
He's like, Shane, you should leave.
Straight away. Yeah. Shane should go. I just have this feeling that it's time for him to move on.
You know who I hate? Shane. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah. But he's so jealous of Shane, and it seems that Dale can't accept the decline of his influence and his power, you know, as a younger man. You know, it's I think this is why the boomers never retire, is they can't, you know, they can't let go. And so I find that was a hilarious scene where Shane Dale was so obvious with his jealousy of Shane.
Yeah.
But to his credit in this episode, He says, you know, I mean, I think everything you said is right. And he is manipulative at times. Like, I couldn't think of the line, but he's saying, we've all wanted to shoot Daryl. I think he's just sucking up to Andrea because she's, you know, in a one down position there, or she's feeling bad. But also mixed in there is just some genuine care that's nice, you know.
Course.
Yeah, he doesn't want his friend to kill himself, whether he's in love with her or not. That's still like, and here in this episode, she's telling him I'm okay, and he's like, you don't know what kind of a person Shane is, and she's like, it's okay, Dale, and he's like, okay, I'm done. And I really got the feeling that he meant that, you know, and so at least he's like, he finally seems to be getting the message.
Yeah, but I love Andrea's reaction is like, she's kind of sometimes gives him this quizzical look, and he's like, kind of like, are you hitting on me? Like, what the hell is this?
But I think the intention was to end up getting them together in the show too. And then Jeffrey Demun wanted to leave because Frank Darabont got ousted. But it really... Maybe, in my opinion, if they were planning on that, they maybe should have changed their plans, because it just doesn't feel good between those two characters. Maybe they could have made it work, but up to now, I'm not into it.
Did Dale in the comics look like Dale in the show?
Yes, the hat is canon.
Right.
I believe.
The hat.
He looked maybe older, actually.
Yeah.
Older. That's so interesting. That's so interesting. But I guess when the world, you know, there's not a lot of options.
That's kind of what one of the things I mean, it was just a great relationship because they were both cool people. But one of the things I liked about the idea of the comic, and even in the execution of the comic, is, okay, all of our social mores are gone. We don't have to adhere to any of these anymore if we don't want to. And so whether you agree with that or not, I thought that was cool, because they're just like, hey, we like each other. Yeah. Let's just go for it.
Yeah. All right. So Rick, Shane, and Laurie. And we have the, this is just for me to kind of clarify, to make sure that I'm on the right kind of thing with the relationships here, because you know, when you're sitting there on your own watching, this is why we all listen to the podcast, is you've got the classic good guy and the bad boy fighting for dominance, and then to claim Laurie and the child. You know, it was such a, like, Rick knows but Shane doesn't know he knows, and this leads to one of their demise, and it's because Laurie said, you know, why did this happen? And she was like, I wanted to feel something, anything. And I'm like, look, anything would have been better than sleeping with your husband's best friend. And even though, you know, you knew he was dead, it's just going to cause trouble. And then it was so interesting to see when Shane pleads his case, you know, and he says, we've carried on quite a bit, and everyone knew. And so this whole group knows about it, and then he just literally claims a child, it's mine, and so, like, that is such a dangerous dynamic within the group. And although Laurie in the earlier episodes appears to put an end to it and a hard down, she doesn't want him to leave, she wants him to stay, she goes to him occasionally, has kind of intimate moments with him, he can't forget it, and all this is going to end in is someone's death. And so it's such a fraught relationship. And it's also really sad to see, like, the split between Shane and Rick as well, because they are brothers, you know, and so I was also wondering, because I wasn't sure, does Shane know that Rick knows in the end about their affair?
I don't think he knows yet.
No, because
he's like, congratulations, and Rick kind of nods awkwardly.
But wasn't there a scene? Wasn't there a scene in this, or the end of last episode, when Rick goes, I know about Shane, but Shane doesn't know Rick knows, right?
He was just that was just between Rick and Laurie.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So, Shane tells Laurie, you know, the baby's his, and Laurie says it's Rick's, but then she goes, Shane, I'm sorry, but even if it's yours, it's never going to be yours, and there's nothing you can do to change that. And I, like, a couple episodes ago, when Shane was ready to leave, he's like, this is not working, I need to leave. Andrea's like, can I go with you? Then Laurie goes, stay. And my criticism was that she didn't say, I want you to stay because you have a relationship with Carl and you're a help around here, but it doesn't have anything to do with us, okay? But now she's being direct. It's not yours. It's never going to be yours. Even if it was yours, it's not. She's saying, Rick's my husband. I love Rick. She should have made that clear earlier. And now, because then Shane would have maybe decided to leave not having that information, or at least he would have known. But now that Shane thinks, and he's right, I think, that she has his baby, it doesn't matter what she says. So she's chosen the wrong time to be direct. And I think that in story makes me feel more critical of Laurie and probably a lot of people. But I think it's just a soap opera thing, you know. It was how can we do this to ramp up the drama even more? Let's get Shane to stick around thinking maybe there could be something, and then find out that it's his baby, but Laurie tells him to leave.
I really hate the trope of woman gets pregnant because adultery. I can't stand it. I forgive it. I forgive it in The Walking Dead because we get Judith and it's fine.
Yeah.
But like I was flipping reading a poem from like the 1560s today for work, and I was like, it's a poem about an adulterous wife, and the narrator is laughing because lo and behold she gets pregnant, serves her right, and I'm like, oh my god. Come on, lads, have we not? But also then I'm like, Laurie, contraception exists even in the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah,
Be
but
smart.
maybe it is the oldest story of mankind, of people having affairs and people getting pregnant and secret relationships and marriages that aren't great, but you have to stay in them and then you move without them. But then everything is so intensified by this situation, and because it's life and death. And I think it goes, like, for me, the zombie apocalypse leads to us kind of devolving 200 or 300 years, 500 years, going back 1,000, going back into medieval times where it's small settlements fighting against each other, and that you have to have hard men on the walls, to protect yourself. And also there's bands of horrible men out there going to just take things. And so I found it really interesting when Shane was pleading his case, it was as a protector. And he's like, who protected you, me or Rick? And then she said, no.
How many times he saved your life? Yeah.
Yeah, that one. Exactly.
Seemed like a little kid.
Oh, how many?
There was
How
this
many?
time and that time. Yeah.
So
By my
funny.
count, that's only one. And you're like, okay, calm the fuck down, mate. Like,
Yeah, so well, it's an intense relationship, and it's interesting how soap opera-y it is. And okay, my last one is how I like to look at it, is the manipulation of Glenn by Maggie. Poor young Glenn that doesn't know anything. He's very innocent, and like it seems like it was like teenagers dating, and they like it's an argument over what happened at the bowling alley, rather than discovering a whole band of walkers in the barn that could be dangerous to everyone, because she kind of gives him the silent treatment, and he's pleading after, and she's walking away. That she has this slight smile on her face, and okay, I'm reeling him in, and then he's begging for her to talk to him, and he smashes her on the head with the egg, and which is still kind of flirty, even they have that kind of flirty thing, and
I use that all the time, in bars.
Yeah, exactly. But then when he makes his speech of I will do anything to protect you, the walkers are dangerous, and I forgot they were, which I thought was very interesting. It immediately, once that she has his dedication and knows that he will protect her and be with her, then he offers to wash his hat, and then Glenn takes the gun, but then asks permission if he's allowed to go and shoot the zombies. Yeah. And so it was very interesting how fast that went from running into each other on the veranda to a full-on relationship in where you're each asking permission from each other. or approval in like 4 or 5 days. But then again, that's the zombie apocalypse.
I love that he asks her before he joins in the shooting.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that's so
me too.
important because it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what
her
Shane does to
brother.
the Greens is awful. Like
Yeah.
they're definitely
yeah.
not getting to stay on the fucking farm
Oh.
after that. Like
No.
in a way,
I mean, as far as Herschel's concerned,
Yeah.
Shane's massacring his family and friends.
and
Right
in a
there.
way, Sophia coming out's supposedly a good thing because it gives them something to be like, well, you
Yeah.
didn't tell us Sophia was on the
Yeah.
farm.
And I kind of
Yeah.
wonder that's why Rick shot Sophia, because he hadn't shot anyone else. But I think in part, maybe it was like, because Rick wants to stay on the farm. And he's like, look, if we're going to have this rule that zombies aren't people, then now someone comes out that I actually kind of care about. It's my fault. She's like this. I'm going to show them that it goes across the board, not just your wife and kid, but our child too,
Yeah.
something like that.
I really judge Shane for not shooting Sophia like that.
Yeah. I think it was a great story moment though, because Shane's supposed to be the one that's the badass and Rick is soft, and Rick ended up being the one to do it. And that just shows who's going to go on in the series in a weird, twisted way.
Definitely.
But as far as Glenn and Maggie, I just think it's kind of interesting that, so Maggie's mad at Glenn for spilling her secrets. And that's the conflict between the two of them, about the walkers in the barn. But it turns out, I think, that, Glenn reveals that the reason he did that is because he wants her to be safe. He cares about her. Yeah. He doesn't want her in danger. So he did it because of his love for her. So it's really sweet. Yeah. And I think that she's mad at him for a similar reason, because we see she's coming around she calls the zombies walkers. She tells her dad, you think they're sick, but one almost killed me. So maybe in the pharmacy, that's when she changed her mind about them, when Glenn saved her. But so I think the reason she's mad at Glenn for telling isn't so much anymore that she thinks her stepmom and brother are in there, but more because she's afraid that this is going to cause conflict and Glenn's going to have to go away. Yeah. So they're both mad at each other because of sweet reasons. Kind of.
Oh, it's an adorable relationship. But I love pre-Maggie Glenn, and I understand the change, and I think they have a great relationship, and of course Maggie turns out to be a great leader and a great person and everything. But that's are you suited for the zombie apocalypse? And I find it one of my favorite kind of tropes of these things is someone's normal skills in real life being super important in the zombie apocalypse. Like Glenn was the pizza delivery guy, but that makes him think about routes and efficiency and just getting through things and like driving around the city, the city, how to get in and how to get out. And that was actually one of his skills. And that was one of his main, contributions to the group, was going on runs because he was so safe. And I love that kind of, that thing of like a kind of everyday skill becoming important after everything goes to shit.
She rides horses, so that helps.
Yeah.
Too.
Oh, and that was one of my favorite moments. Sending that head off with the baseball bat to the polo playing. Yeah.
There's been an accident. Sorry, I have to say it every time that scene comes up.
I need to clip that. So, and you said this, something about this changes Glenn, right? After this.
Yeah.
With Maggie. And when she says, "Hey, walker bite," and he goes, "Don't call me that," and she goes, "Okay, Glenn." And this is where he stops being comic relief, I think. I can't remember. I mean, he still maybe has some moments, but he seemed like the comic relief character on the show, like Hurley on Lost. But now he's turning into more of a serious, grounded, solid person.
And he grows up and becomes a man and has responsibility for someone and wants to take on that responsibility. For them.
And Stephen Yeun does a great job of showing that in his character. But in one sense, I was like, but I like the goofy, funny Glenn. But I can't blame. Stephen Young didn't like that. He told us on the podcast. So maybe he had some influence on how this went. But I didn't remember it being so early on that he starts to get more serious and capable and everything.
I think Maggie was enjoying making him go through hoops with the egg. I think it was rotten. I'm like, okay.
Oh yeah.
There's a little smirk on her face. She's got a great swagger, Lauren Cohen. She's like,
yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, well, I totally get why Glenn is like, yeah, I'll do anything.
Yeah, anything you say, Maggie, anything. Like,
yeah, she's pretty great. When Maggie says when Herschel married her stepmother, all she wanted to do was smoke and shoplift, and that made me think of Glenn in the comics. Revealed at some point that he used to steal cars before
really
the ZA. Yeah, I don't think they ever had TV show Glenn say that, but
no,
it's sort of a connection. Shoplifting and stealing cars, like they're connected on that level too. But anyway, all right, that was great. Thanks, Jonathan. Relationships. Lucy?
I had Glenn and Maggie also. So
a Scottish Southern accent. I like.
So yeah, I know. I was doing an improv show last week, and we got given the prompt to do it in the style of Bluey, which is an Australian.
Oh yeah,
it's huge over here. Not having children, I've watched Bluey maybe once, half an episode. So I just went for it with the Aussie accent. It didn't go well. Didn't go well.
Can I love?
I was like, oh, Bluey, your family's just been killed in a massacre. It was not great. The audience were like, I was like, it could be worse. Anyway, moving swiftly on. Yeah. Shane's turn, like the switch flicks in Shane this episode. I think we've spoken about it and around it, but the moment he hears that Laurie's going to have a baby, that's caveman shit that he goes into at that point. And you can see, I think that scene, that walk with purpose that he goes on, and then Carl, I felt very tense when Carl like puffs up to him and is like, calls him out on his bullshit. And I was like, there's a moment where I'm like, is Shane going to go for Carl because he's so hyped up and so angry? But he does something that in a way is more threatening to Laurie, which is goes paternal.
Yeah.
Goes paternal on Laurie, on Laurie's son.
Yeah. That was more threatening, wasn't it?
It was more threatening. Laurie sees it and she's like, fuck, he's not going anywhere. Like, he really views this as, his stake now. And he's just on an absolute rampage. And you can see, I just sometimes wonder, John Bernthal went on to be the Punisher. And I'm like, you can see that in this episode. Absolutely. You can see that drive and that intensity.
Laurie fucked this up. She should have been like, Rick, maybe don't tell Shane, although I don't know if he might be like, why not?
Well, that's their whole conflict, is because Shane is like, I know why Rick told me and you didn't. And that he's not wrong. Yeah. He's right about that.
She should have went and told Shane, hey, Rick knows I'm pregnant, or tried something other than just
tried to get him out, being like, actually, Shane, go, leave. I don't want you here anymore before he finds out. It's such a mess. It's such a glorious, glorious mess. And that scene where Rick tells Shane, and I think there's so much unspoken subtext in that scene, because what Rick is telling Shane is, you're going to be a dad. And what Shane, the joy on Shane's face, and they're like, oh, Laurie's pregnant. Wow, congratulations. It's about how he's feeling. And then Rick looks over his shoulder like, thanks, because he knows it would be weird if he didn't say thanks. And I'm like, the sexual tension between Rick and Shane is like off the scale, man.
I always laugh when I hear this, because it's okay.
The smolder, they're just smoldering at one another. I'm just like, just kiss. I mean, they're obviously not actually trying to each other, but the intensity, like, especially when Rick's like, brother, don't do this, when he's like holding this up, it's so good.
I think it's because John Bernthal and Andrew Lincoln are similar kinds of actors that just put so much into it. And they feed off of each other.
Oh, they're brilliant to watch together. Absolute dynamite. Yeah. Absolute dynamite. And Shane going for the barn, not being deterred. That scene where he is dishing out the guns and Maggie, God bless her, is standing up to him and saying, what the hell are you doing? That's a coup. That's him saying, this farm isn't yours anymore. That's
Absolutely.
Him. It is so disrespectful what he does. And little Carl screaming out, Shane, we have to stay. Like, we want to stay. Don't do this. Awful. He's an absolute man on a mission, and it's a terrible mission. It's not a mission he should be on. It's a cruel mission. It's one that, yeah, technically he's in the right, but he's showing absolutely no empathy for the people around him.
It had a point, didn't it?
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting, as you say. It was a coup. It was also a coup on the group. It was taking over Rick's leadership. He's like, I'm the leader now. I'm deciding this. Rick can't do it anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like the way he played up to like this very masculine thing of like, what about you, Glenn? You're going to protect your own. You're going to do that. And I'm just like, oh, Shane is toxic masculinity.
And this makes me wonder, like, because I can't remember. Okay, this seems like though Sophia was the reason that they were sticking around, or at least one reason. Rick clearly wanted to stay here longer, and so did Carl. Yeah. But it seems like after this, they would be on their way, but they're not. So I'm like, what? Didn't Herschel kick him? But they're there for the rest of the season. I know, because I tried to get him in the last episode.
Yeah, because I'm really looking forward to the back half, because I can't remember it. I've got some vague images of things that have happened, but I really don't remember the story. You know,
I'm just looking to see if there's any other Shane moments.
But he was an unstoppable force, wasn't he? When it was like a runaway train, just heading down the tracks. There was only one destination, and he wasn't stopping until he got there.
One of my favorite exchanges I've ever had about John Bernthal was off podcast, where I was talking to my friend Diane, and I was like, can you believe that John Bernthal trained in Russia? Like, he trained as an actor in Russia. And she looked at me and she's like, that man's got the face of a man who trained in Russia, Lucy. I was like, yeah, you know what? You're not wrong. You're not wrong. If they told me Chandler Riggs trained in the USSR, I might be like, did he? But yeah, John Bernthal, I'm like, yeah, no, that does actually make sense.
I don't know if I've talked much about my interactions with him.
No, you haven't. You haven't. I remember being at a Walker Stalker where you did a panel with him, but I never really. He's one of the ones I've never heard you talk about so much.
There were a couple that come to mind. One was in Boston, and Nerf was sponsoring it, so all the actors had Nerf guns and they were trying to shoot each other and stuff. And we had a couple up on stage, and I didn't click with him. I wanted to, but I don't think he connected with me. I always felt like that. He wouldn't look at me. And when we sat up on stage, I tried to kind of break the ice by picking up the gun and pointing it at him, the Nerf gun. And he just goes, don't, like he was scared, not kidding around. I'm like, I'm just playing. And
then he took your family out of the bar and shot them with a Nerf gun in front of you.
And it was a kick-ass panel, mostly because of his interactions with the audience in the Q&A. And I just sort of stood back and let him do his thing. Then there was another time we had this smaller stage right in the middle of the convention, and it was just me and him, and there were people, no seats, just standing all around. And I had this question. I don't have any clue what it was, but it was too long of a build up for a question before we warmed up at all, because halfway through the question, he just like trailed off and he like saw some little kid or something and he goes, oh, that's a cute kid, like right in the middle of my question. I think he was making a point like that your question's too long. And then I said something about, or he goes, he reminds me of my son. And I'm like, oh, I have a son. And he goes, oh, how old? And I'm like, this old. Oh, that's how old my son is, which I knew our kids were the same age. And so I had to like really catch myself and be like, he's kind of in the moment, so let me meet him where he's at and go from there. And it was better after that. But I don't know. I never quite figured out how to really connect with him.
He seems very serious about his craft. He seems quite thespian in the interviews I've seen. But he also, like, I've seen some. Isn't has he been in the military?
I think there's something that his Mark Maron episode is brilliant.
Yeah,
was when I
think that's what I'm thinking of.
He acts up here. I'm pointing at my brain because it's a podcast. So me pointing at something on the screen is not helpful. He's actually quite cerebral, because I was like, oh, he looks like an action guy, right? But he talks to Maron about kind of the career he had before The Walking Dead and sort
Right.
of stuff. And yeah, it's fascinating, really.
But
fascinating.
he's very serious and like especially interviews I've seen in later years. Like, you know, you have to talk about serious things with him. Is what I found, brother. You know, he's not some goofy guy.
Yeah.
He's very intense.
I wish I could have gotten into a really serious conversation with it, because I did with several others. But anyway, because I had all varying types of connections with the different actors. Some of them, I'm Facebook friends with some of them, but not so much him. But I still totally respect him as an actor. I love his performances, and I'm glad to see that he's one of the ones that have gone on to really be super successful after The Walking Dead, because he's so talented.
I think his appearances in The Bear are some of the best bits of TV
is he in that?
I've seen.
He's great.
Good.
Yeah, he fills a role that is done mostly in flashbacks. Well, is done in flashbacks entirely, and he just owns it. Like, it's hard to describe, but I remember just being like, oh my god, he's great in this role. Like,
he's really good.
Fantastic. Yeah, really good.
And there has been a lot of shirtless shots of him, I've noticed, in as we've been going on as well.
I have to say, just take one look at him in those dungarees, and no shirtless shots can get those
Makes
out
up
your
for
mind.
it.
There was one time in Atlanta, Andrew Lincoln had a big panel, and I was trying like hard to get it set up as a "this is your lifestyle" thing, where we would have in the wings waiting John Bernthal and the guy who played the governor, Dave, what's his name?
Dave
wow.
Morrissey.
And one other guy, maybe it was the Terminus guy. And they were all game, including Bernthal. Like, that was the most
amazing.
connected I ever felt with him when I was like, yeah, we're going to do this. It's going to be great. But then it technically didn't work out for whatever reason. It would have been great.
And Lincoln were really close friends, I think. I feel like their kids were similar ages and stuff. Yeah, I remember there was an anecdote about them going trick-or-treating together with the kids, presumably, not the two of them. That'd be really weird. Rick and Shane just at your doorstep asking for candy, I suppose.
You come as Rick and Shane.
Oh, brilliant.
Good costume.
Oh my god, I would do
look
that.
Amazing.
Really
If I was on The Walking Dead, I'd be like, hey.
So where are we?
I was talking, just
still?
saying that Shane kills it in this episode in more ways than one, but this is where his spiral starts. Like, this is where it's fully engaged in evil Shane unlocked in this episode. I think all bets are off. He's gone complete rogue, and there's no coming back from this.
Because I remember him and Rick taking Randall out in 18 Miles Out, and they're still friends. So
it's very tense, though. I feel like.
Is it? Okay.
And at that point, isn't Shane like planning to do exactly the opposite?
Kill him or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see. I can't wait to watch now. I'm excited. Okay, my turn. Should I do why did this episode hook people into the show? I think the obvious reason is that it was so intense and unexpected, and there's something about the bleakness of it that's compelling. We want to see these characters that we have come to love be put through hell and see how they'll come through it, but also, I don't know, just spending 6 episodes hoping that they would find this little girl and somehow having her come out. It was just, being shocked like that it's hard to do, It's hard to shock people.
Exactly.
I don't know if anybody expected that. So that's just unexpected. And then it just, like I said, seeing how they come through these awful situations. The show keeps going after this. There's people dying, cannibals, rapists, autocratic assholes. So that's one reason why
everything we come to know and love.
That's why I really like the ending where they found some peace and stability in the Commonwealth. It's like a good place to end. But also I just think what else about the episode, it's helpful to ask what this revelation about the walkers in the barn in the first place, and then having Sophia be in there, meant to the group. It's so destabilizing. Like, Glenn doesn't realize it, but when he's telling people about the walkers, it's going to have a bigger impact on his group situation than he thinks. And Sophia is the main reason why they're there, so that takes that away. It could impact how people perceive Rick as a leader, given that he's the one who kind of lost her. And that's been a big theme on the show this season. He didn't know Shane was going to go in and shoot them. And so that causes a lot of potential conflict between Herschel's people and our people. Yeah, like you said, Jonathan, Shane sort of asserted that he's now the leader. So that's conflict between him and Rick. It just destabilizes everything. And I think destabilization is just what the show needed because, like I said at the top, it was getting a little bit like, okay, the search for Sophia, everybody standing around talking all the time, no zombies, come on. So this really kicked things into gear, you know?
Yeah. But then the writer said, what will make the second half even better? An extended debate about the death penalty. But, you know, there's stuff happens around that that's better. It amps it up, I think. But yeah, it's all teething problems, isn't it? Yeah. I think you're right though, Jason. Like that was a joke, but that was in case anyone that was a joke. But no, I think you are right that it does pull out from that kind of standing around the farm, playing CSI.
Yeah,
with a missing
laying
child.
the map out on the hood, and let's try over here.
In this episode of The Walking Dead, we're going to learn about concentric circles on an ordnance survey map. Woo!
Yeah, Daryl, that's how he does it. Expanding concentric circles, eventually ending up in France.
In France.
Which was a fantastic series.
You enjoyed it too?
Good.
It,
Oh, good. Oh, man. Yeah,
I'm glad. All right, Jonathan, do you have any more points?
Yeah, well, I assume we're going to address Sophia, you know, in deeply later on. But I'll just throw in a quick thing on the camera work and how this season has been shot. You know, I think in the beginning there was this crash zoom at the intro to a perfectly blocked shot of the cast. You know how like you see these shots of groups and they all stand around like the Avengers. The way it was framed was these group shots were really well done and gave everyone a presence and power, but also seemed not set up. It seemed quite natural. And then there's also the shots of the barn that seems like a new character in the series. There's just this imposing barn.
The music gets a little ominous when they show it too.
Yeah, almost like the what was the Amityville Horror House.
Yes.
You know, where they have that shot, and it also had at the front the two eyes of the two windows. But I also like the horror vibes of how this was shot. The grading of it, it felt very Texas Chainsaw Massacre with the color palette, this warm thing and the heat. And they did some interesting angles, like from the top of the barn looking down was very graphic. And one of my favorites was Rick and Herschel at lunch, and it felt very noir, and because they were backlit and in silhouette and framed by the door, and the framing of the door kept becoming tighter and tighter as the tension built between the two of them, making it feel like the walls were closing in. And there was also, and this may have done because of the constraints of shooting on location in a house, there are a lot of long lens and close-up shots, but that also added to the tension. There's this great idea in 12 Angry Men, how in the beginning everything was shot on a wide-angle lens, and then as the movie progressed, the lenses got longer and longer, and the frames got tighter and tighter to have this build-up of tension in the movie. And I feel like they're doing that here as well. Like there's a lot of shots using walls and doorways as frames, especially at the end when Sophia is you have this POV shot of Sophia looking out, and it's just the doors of the barn in full silhouette, and you have Shane looking back in, peering in, and you just think, oh, what's about to come? But basically the camera work was a real character in this one, and it really added to the tension.
Are you talking about, so early on there was one when Shane first finds out and goes over to the barn and you see his face through like a crack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when at the end, and we should come back to it. I'm sure we'll come back to it.
That was great. That shot in early on I loved, because he's like cocking his head looking in there. And then we get a jump scare,
Obviously a jump scare. I knew it was coming and I still did it. I was like, oh, jump scare.
And then jump scare. When they're arguing, I think it's Shane and Daryl arguing that we talked about earlier, and then the Zeds here and they get all agitated and you see the door start to shake. And I don't know if that was so much great film work, but it was a good moment.
But it's just there is horror here. It's creepy, and I also noticed earlier on in what's different now to later seasons is the characters are afraid of the zombies.
Yeah,
there's real fear. Like
they're like pests later.
Yeah, no one would care about like a dozen walkers in a bar in season 8. No. Well, someone would walk in on their own and just go stabby.
If it was Fear the Walking Dead, they would go in and have full-on dialogue as the zombies stood around waiting for their turn to
grandstanding. Coleman and Domingo giving it all that while like zombies are having a knife fight in the background. You're like, okay.
That one I fell out of because the literal reason I stopped watching Fear of the Walking Dead is because my DVR didn't record the first one, and I'm like, oh well.
Your DVR did you a massive favor.
Yes, it was faded moment. Coleman Domingo, by the way, I think he just got nominated for an Oscar.
Indeed, yeah.
For Rustin.
He's amazing. Why? Right? Oh my God. Why?
Yeah.
Someone at AMC.
Look what happens when you quit Fear, or when you leave Fear.
Well, that was the saddest thing, because it was such a great show in the first 2 seasons, and I thought it was an amazing, and then it just, I'm sure you've spoken about it before.
We rarely mention it.
Yeah, but I love how this season was shot, and how it the color grading of it, that warm kind of thing, and the haziness of it, and the sun setting, and I felt it added character to the whole series.
When I was preparing the graphic to put up on our Facebook page for the comment post, it was Rick holding his gun at his iconic downward angle, that came to, that's just how he uses it, but I don't know if we've seen that before now. Maybe this was the first time. Anyway, I just, sometimes I have a photo in the Apple Photos application, and there's a magic button that you press that kind of saturates things and bumps up the contrast and color and stuff. And I did that and it looked really good, but it was like, nope, that's not The Walking Dead. It needs to be kind of washed out, warm. So I just undid it and posted it up there.
You got to hit that desaturation button, for sure. And when you think you've gone far enough, just go a little bit more.
Oh my God. I love your point, Jonathan, because I noticed a couple of things in this episode aesthetically that I didn't know how to articulate, and I think you have just done that really well. And one thing I did,
photographer's lingo.
I know. And one thing I wondered about watching this is, I remember this season ends with them, when the herd comes through, they're actually starting to hunker down for winter. And I was at this episode, I was like, are we starting to turn a bit late summer, early autumn with the colors? Like Rick's wearing slightly, I don't know, he was wearing a darker shirt. Like I was just like, oh, is this where the turn starts to come, where, because we don't see a full kind of seasonal shift, but I wondered if it was starting to. But that is an interesting,
because it does feel like the end of the day. It does feel like the end of summer. And are they saying that because this is the end of summer for humanity? We're going into a dark winter. We're not quite there.
Winter
yet.
Is coming, you're saying.
Yeah, winter is coming. Yeah, that's a good point, Jason. Thank you.
Winter becomes. This is something I really realized living in when I lived in Canada. It was like, winter can kill you. Like we've lost so much touch with the actual elements of the world outside. We sit in our heated houses, which is our right and is one of the reasons that we are successfully living on this planet. And you can die outside if you're not warm. Four walls and a roof, and warmth and heat becomes this huge thing. The other shot that I noticed that kind of leads into my final point was, there was a really interesting framing of Maggie and Herschel before they have their conversation in the kitchen, where the camera's almost it's almost like it's on a shelf behind the room. Like you can see some wood around it, and it's the two of them are facing each other over the kitchen table. And Maggie's disappointment in her father, I think, is weighing on him. And I really loved that sequence because I think what Maggie talks Herschel into there is giving Rick a chance, which is what we see when he takes Rick on the awful mission to capture like Mrs. Lou from down the road from the bloody swamp. But the way Maggie delivers it with scripture is so beautiful. Love one another. It's just really nice. And it affects Herschel because she's speaking to him in a language that he understands, because we see him doing his Bible study in this episode. You know, his faith is front and foremost of how he operates here. And I thought that scene between the two of them in the kitchen was just lovely, intimate work. And it's Maggie pushing back against her father in a reasonable and robust way. And she corrects him. You know, she says the Asian boy is called Glenn. And he kind of takes it. And that kitchen scene really struck me. And then, of course, you get to Herschel taking Rick to do the lead them, Rick. You've got to lead them. Like, it's just, so funny. It's so ludicrous.
I found that so funny, that scene.
He goes, funny. You're the carrot, not the stick.
Yeah, you're the carrot, not the stick. And even Rick, who's like, we gotta say, anything you ask me, I will do so I can stay on this farm. It's like, this is easy. Like,
well, it's like, so like, poor Rick, he's like, these are zombies. Have you ever seen Night of the Living Dead? But all right, I'll play along.
Awful.
You know,
awful. And Jimmy falls over.
Funny.
Like Otis clearly had skills that we just didn't.
Yeah, we find out
in the time that we had him.
Otis is the one who used to do that, which is why no one knows that Sophia's in the barn, because Otis put her in there.
Oh, About going to your point, Lucy, about that conversation, because Rick's earlier conversation with Herschel is like, you know, we don't want to go out there because we'll become something we don't want to be, and Maggie brings that up to Herschel is like, you're becoming someone you don't want to be. You're sending people out into the thing, and that's not you. And I think he realizes, like, I'm doing something wrong here. And then
she turned him around.
Tries to work it out.
So then he's like, all right, Rick, if you want to stay here, you got to pass this test. Treat these zombies like people.
It's just,
and then Shane sees that just pissed him off. What the hell are you doing?
That was it. Yeah.
Well, it's like,
if it wasn't done then,
it's like degrading, isn't it, to see someone like Rick? Doing that, it's like humiliating. And Rick's just like, we just have to get it done. And then Shane's
Rick
like,
might as well be giving one of them a piggyback ride.
And Shane's essentially like, hold my beer, and then letting him go. It's so bad. It truly is just a massive clusterfuck of epic proportions at this point. We find out in the conversation with Rick, with Herschel and Maggie, that all the other farms nearby are burned out or overrun. Because he's like, they'll find themselves a farm, maybe even nearby. Because I did sort of think, maybe they could just go 2 miles down the road and be like near, but not too near.